I know, it feels good to be home. It's my first time ever out here. It's an ice ball.
Ever since Drake dropped ICEMAN, a project built as a dedication to Honor and Habib, the numbers surrounding the rollout have been staggering. Between album sales, merchandise, music videos, and an anticipated ICEMAN tour, analysts are putting his projected earnings somewhere north of $100 million. And once those kinds of figures start circulating, people can't help but wonder what a rap mogul of Drake's caliber actually does with that level of wealth. A big piece of that answer sits right in his hometown. Drake planted his flag in Toronto years ago when he quietly acquired a sprawling estate back in 2015, a $7 million purchase at the time that most people barely blinked at. Fast forward to today and that same property has ballooned to an estimated $100 million valuation, completely unrecognizable after a series of extravagant renovations that turned it into something closer to a private resort than a home. He dubbed it the Embassy and the name fits. The whole vision behind the build-out was simple: create an environment so complete that stepping outside becomes optional. A resort-style pool, a hot tub, a cinema-grade movie theater, everything was accounted for. Drake even documented the very first time he jumped into that enormous pool, making sure the moment didn't go unwitnessed.
Yes, sir. First swim of the summer, and first time ever in the pool, actually, to be honest. This is my first time ever out here.
Given his deep-rooted passion for basketball, a full-size indoor court was a non-negotiable addition, somewhere he could pull up with friends and run games on a whim. But the court wasn't the only professional-grade space he carved out inside those walls. A fully equipped recording studio was built right into the property, meaning Drake can go from laying down tracks to shooting hoops without ever changing his zip code. The estate itself stretches across a staggering 50,000 square feet, and sitting at the heart of it is what Drake refers to as the Great Room, a space anchored by a jaw-dropping chandelier assembled from roughly 20,000 individual crystals that command attention the second you walk in. Spread throughout the home is an impressive signed jersey collection, and then there's the closet situation, which is a story on its own. His walk-in closet houses well over $1 million worth of clothing and accessories, and even that wasn't enough to contain everything. At a certain point, Drake acknowledged that his wardrobe had grown so out of hand that he had to convert a section of the basketball court into additional closet space. The Embassy isn't just a flex, and it's genuinely a reflection of who Drake is at his core. His connection to Toronto runs deeper than real estate though. He's been caught on camera making his way back to the city specifically to perform, proving the bond between him and his hometown is something money can't manufacture.
How are you, boss? Good, how are you? You alright? Good to see you. Yo, that drive is long, man.
I know.
How are you?
I'm good, boss.
Huh?
I can't say I'm not good. I'm you.
I know, it feels good.
Of course, when your home becomes this well known to the public, privacy stops being a given and starts being something you have to actively pay for. Drake pours serious money into making sure himself and everyone around him stays protected at all times. The city of Toronto actually stepped in and granted him a rare exception, something they don't hand out lightly, allowing him to erect walls standing at 14 feet around the perimeter of the property. For context, that's literally double what the city legally permits for anyone else. Just getting those walls built ran Drake a cool $4 million in construction costs alone, and that's before you even factor in the additional $3 million he drops annually, keeping a full security operation running around the property year-round. But here's where things shift into a completely different tax bracket. There is one asset in Drake's portfolio that actually surpasses the value of the Embassy itself, and that's his private jet, a $200 million aircraft that he made entirely his own. The exterior was wrapped in a striking blue sky design with Air Drake printed boldly along the fuselage, and the OVO owl was placed on there to make absolutely sure there was no mistaking whose plane it was. Inside, the jet is broken up into multiple rooms, built for long-haul travel with family and close friends and ultimate comfort. Drake once took his followers along for a ride by filming inside the plane, and let's just say the interior square footage had a lot of people reconsidering what a home actually needs to look like.
What up? What's up?
Wait, I'm on a video.
Where's all the, did they bring the Air Drake stuff? Some boxes of like packs.
You haven't ordered?
I'm filming a
Oh, wow.
Whenever the mood strikes, all it takes is a single phone call and that jet is prepped and ready to go within 2 hours. No airports, no lines, no waiting, just wheels up on demand. But what makes Drake's story genuinely compelling isn't just the scale of what he's accumulated, it's what he does with it beyond himself. Drake has made it a habit of reaching back and looking out for people who are struggling, and not in a performative way. There's a well-known moment where he tracked down a woman who had just come out the other side of a grueling medical battle and handed her $100,000 no strings attached purely because he could and because she deserved it. That kind of generosity isn't something you can fake, and it's a big reason why the conversation around Drake's legacy always ends up going beyond just the music and the mansions.
At the end of the night, and I hope my manager does it because I never really done this. I never done this so much, but I want you to cash this in at the end of the night, and we're gonna give you $100,000 from the community.
Then there were the two fans who showed up to one of his 2024 tour stops carrying a story that stopped Drake in his tracks. They had sold off their furniture, not some of it, all of it to you, just to scrape together enough money to be in that arena that night. When Drake caught wind of it, he didn't just feel for them, he did something about it. He sent them $50,000 on the spot, enough to not only replace everything they gave up, but probably upgrade the whole setup in the process. That's the thing about Drake that doesn't always make the headlines the way it should. For every massive purchase and over-the-top flex, there's a moment like this one sitting right next to it.
Right? My manager is my DJ, right? Is he over there? He's right here? You know what, my man, your furniture money, I'm gonna give you 50 bands tonight because I love you. Make sure you get some money tonight.
Of course, a portfolio like Drake's wouldn't be complete without a car collection to match, and he made sure to build one that turns heads at every level. But nothing in that garage stops conversation quite like his Bugatti Veyron, a $2 million machine that sits at the very top of the collection for good reason. What makes it truly untouchable isn't just the price tag, it's the rarity. Only 12 of these were ever built anywhere in the world, making Drake's ownership of one less of a purchase and more of a privilege. And the performance backs up the prestige. The Veyron holds the distinction of being the first production car in history to crack 250 miles per hour, a number that still sounds impossible when you say it out loud.
Hey Tracy. What's up, Drake? What's up, buddy? Thanks, man. I love you. I love you.
Drake has made it clear that exclusivity is the whole point, but if everyone can have it, he's probably not interested. That philosophy extends beyond the Bugatti, because Drake also went ahead and completed a full lineup of Rolls-Royce vehicles, capping it off by adding a Rolls-Royce Cullinan to the collection in a rare Chrome Hearts edition that takes an already elite vehicle and pushes it into a completely different category. But what makes the story even better is that Drake didn't keep that one to himself. He turned around and gifted a Chrome Hearts Rolls-Royce to streamer Ben the Don as a Christmas present, and because apparently when you're operating at Drake's level, that's just how you do the holidays.
Man, I got it. When my twin coming, twin gotta come train with me though.
Now, not everyone was on board with the Ben the Don gift. The internet had plenty to say about a millionaire receiving a Rolls Royce for Christmas when there are people out there with far greater needs. It's a fair conversation to have. But the full picture of how Drake moves with his money tells a more balanced story than that one moment suggests. Across the years, he's shown up for everyday people in ways that rarely get the same attention as the flashy gestures. One instance that stands out involved a fan who had just lost their mother and was carrying the weight of grief alongside the very real financial pressure that often follows it. Drake didn't send flowers, he paid off the remainder of their family's mortgage, eliminating a burden that no amount of condolences could have touched. That's a different kind of generosity entirely, and it's worth keeping in the conversation whenever his name comes up.
This is it? Oh, this is the outstanding ballots right here. It's a lot of money right here. But you know what? I'm gonna pay off your mama's house for you. That's 160 bands, but
beyond the cars and the real estate, Drake has a deep obsession with collectibles that taps into something more personal than just spending money. As a die-hard supporter of his hometown Toronto Raptors when they brought home the championship in 2019, Drake commissioned his own custom championship ring to commemorate the moment. And then on top of that, the Raptors organization went ahead and presented him with an official ring from the team itself. But Drake's appetite for significant pieces doesn't stop at sports. He's quietly assembled a collection of artifacts that read like a timeline of hip-hop history. At auction, he picked up Tupac Shakur's crown ring for $1 million and followed that up by securing Tupac's face pendants for another $500,000. He then added a chain that once belonged to Frank Ocean, dropping $2 million to bring it home. Perhaps the boldest acquisition though came when Pharrell Williams found himself in a position where he needed to auction off his chain collection. Drake swept in and bought the entire lot for $2 million, then made sure nobody forgot about it, referencing the purchase in Family Matters by stating that anyone defending Pharrell should come retrieve his legacy from Drake's house first. It was a flex layered inside a disc, and it landed exactly the way he intended. Then there's the gold-wrapped OVO Air Jordan, Geek. Drake poured a couple $1 million worth of gold into a single shoe simply because he wanted to. They're completely unwearable, reportedly tipping the scales at around 100 pounds of solid gold, and as if that weren't enough, a close friend recently came through and gifted him a fully iced out chain blanketed in diamonds from edge to edge.
Oh, it's a gift somebody got me the other day. Speaking of great gifts, you got me a great gift. It's an ice ball.
And rounding out the collection is arguably the most conversation-starting piece of the bunch, a one-of-a-kind roulette watch that does exactly what you'd never expect a watch to do. Built into the side of it is a button that, when pressed, triggers a miniature roulette table on the face that actually spins, complete with a tiny ball that rolls around and lands on a number. It's the kind of piece that exists purely because someone had the vision to dream it up and the resources to make it real. And of course, Drake is the one wearing it on his wrist.
Nothing sweeter than a repeater. Know that. Neeks, what do you think? You think it's a repeat? 4. Nobody picked 4.
What went down on May 15th, 2026 was the kind of moment that only happens once in a generation, and even then, you'd be stretching it. Midnight hit, and Drake didn't drop an album. He dropped 3, all at the same time. ICEMAN, Habibti, and Maid of Honor landed simultaneously on every streaming platform on the planet, and the internet did not know what to do with itself. Timelines broke, group chats went insane, streaming servers were visibly struggling to keep up with the traffic. Music journalists who had been covering the industry for decades were typing things like, "I have never seen anything like this in real time." And for once, nobody was exaggerating. To really feel the weight of what this moment meant though, you have to rewind and look at everything Drake did to set the table before a single track was officially out. The ICEMAN rollout wasn't just a campaign, it was a cultural operation. It started building momentum throughout 2025 through a string of strategic moves that kept the internet locked in without ever fully satisfying the hunger. He dropped What Did I Miss in July 2025, a track that hit immediately and climbed to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, sitting in the cultural conversation for weeks without burning out. A dancehall collaboration called Which One followed, and that one went straight to the top of the rhythmic airplay chart. Doghouse came in September 2025 and found its own lane on the charts. Every single was placed deliberately, not to oversaturate but chikumu, but to keep the appetite building without ever crossing the line into overexposure. Drake fed the streets just enough each time to make sure everyone was still hungry when the main course came. Then in April 2026, the rollout went from interesting to legendary. His team dropped a towering block of ice in the middle of a downtown Toronto parking lot, a structure so massive and so out of place that it immediately drew crowds, drew news cameras, drew police, and eventually got shut down by the city for being a legitimate public safety concern. But before it could fully melt, a streamer named Kishka was digging through the ice alongside other fans when they found a hidden folder inside containing a magazine that confirmed May 15th as the release date. Drake's team reached out directly and handed Kishka $50,000 for the discovery. The clip went everywhere. His Instagram post confirming the date pulled over 3 million likes before the week was out. His courtside seats at Toronto Raptors games were replaced with actual blocks of ice as part of the visual language of the rollout. Reports came in of a massive explosion being staged somewhere in the city for a music video shoot. The whole thing was operating less like a standard album campaign and more like a citywide art installation that happened to be advertising music, and it landed exactly the way it was designed to. Nobody could look away, and the thing is, Drake was already breaking records before those 3 albums even arrived. In April 2026, tracking data showed him pulling 57.8 million streams in a single day on Spotify, the biggest solo rap performance of the entire year at that point, and all of that was purely off his existing catalog. Songs from across his entire discography were moving like they were brand new releases, driven entirely by the energy the rollout was generating. His monthly listener count on Spotify climbed to a new personal peak of 88.74 million, breaking his own prior record and putting the conversation around his streaming dominance back at the forefront of the music industry. That number doesn't happen by accident. That's what it looks like when an artist has built something durable enough that even their oldest records become relevant again every time they make a move. When the albums actually dropped, the records didn't stop. They kept stacking. Billboard confirmed that Drake set the 2026 Spotify record for most streamed artist, album, and song all in the same day, an achievement that essentially meant he broke the record 3 separate times before sunrise on May 16th. Now let's actually talk about what these 3 albums are, because they aren't just 3 versions of the same Drake record repackaged into different bundles. Each one was built as its own world with its own purpose and its own emotional frequency. ICEMAN is the statement. 18 tracks deep, it functions as Drake operating in full competitive mode, darker production, more aggressive energy, and lyrically it reads like a man who has kept receipts and finally decided to read them out loud in front of everyone. This is the version of Drake who has something to prove and wants it on the record permanently. The album carries the kind of controlled intensity that only comes from an artist who has been underestimated recently and is using that energy as fuel rather than letting it become a distraction. What Did I Miss finds its proper home at track 11 in the full project, and in context it hits differently than it did as a standalone single. It's no longer just a sharp song, it's a chapter within a larger argument that Drake is making about where he stands and why, and Maid of Honor operates in a completely different register. 14 tracks, built for energy, built for replay value, built for the moments when you just want music that makes you feel good without requiring anything heavy from you emotionally. Where Iceman is sharp and serious, Maid of Honor leans into the fun side of what Drake does. The internet savvy humor, the relationship energy, the tracks that generate reactions the morning after they drop because they're designed to be talked about and shared. Which one gets its full context here? And the rest of the project surrounds it with the same kind of self-aware, high-energy music that reminds you Drake has always been able to make records that don't need a message attached to them. They just need to be good, and they are. Habibti is arguably the one that the most devoted fans are going to be talking about the longest. 11 tracks, the shortest runtime of the 3, sitting around 36 minutes, but every minute is doing something intentional. This is the late night project, the one that sounds like empty highways and conversations you replay in your head afterward. The atmospheric, melodic, reflective side of Drake, the side that built the reputation that made the competitive side worth defending in the first place. It's emotionally layered in a way that creates a genuine contrast to Iceman's aggressive posture, and that contrast isn't accidental. It shows that even in the middle of the most ambitious rollout of his career, Drake can still slow down and make something that just feels real in a quiet way. Habibti is the project that proves none of the edge or the seriousness has come at the cost of the vulnerability that made people fall in love with his music in the first place. It's the reminder that underneath all of it, the jets and the mansion and the championship rings and the gold wrapped shoes, there's still an artist who knows how to sit with the feeling and turn it into something that stays with you. The cultural impact of all 3 dropping simultaneously is something that even now is still being processed. What Drake essentially did was make it impossible for the culture to focus on anything else. By flooding the zone with 43 songs across 3 distinct creative identities at the exact same moment, he ensured that every conversation, every playlist, every review, every debate, every meme, every reaction video was going to be about him. There was no splitting the attention across competing releases that week. There was no other story. Hip-hop social media became one long, loud, multi-day conversation about which of the 3 albums was the best, what the best tracks were, what the features meant, what the lyrics said, and what the whole moment signaled about where Drake sits in the current landscape. And here's the thing, let all 3 camps form simultaneously. There were people who went all in on Iceman as the strongest rap performance of the era. There was a whole other group who said Maid of Honor was the most entertaining project front to back and that nothing else came close. for pure enjoyment. And then there was a vocal segment that firmly believed Habibti was the one that would age the best, the one they'd still be revisiting 5 years from now. Through 3 debates, 3 different groups of people, all happening at the exact same time under the Drake umbrella. That doesn't happen with any other artist. That kind of range, that kind of ability to serve completely different emotional needs simultaneously is something that belongs to a very short list of musicians that history will actually remember. The cultural footprint extends beyond streaming numbers and chart positions too. The ICEMAN rollout reinvented what an album campaign could look like in 2026. The Ice Block activation in Toronto became a template that other teams were immediately watching and studying. The idea of hiding release information inside a real-world physical installation that fans had to physically interact with to uncover. That was a level of creative marketing that blurred the line between fan experience and performance art. The moment Kishka found that folder and the clip spread globally, every brand strategist and every label marketing team on the planet pulled up the footage to understand what had just been done and how. Drake essentially made the rollout itself a piece of the culture, not just the advertising arm of it. People were watching the ice melt in real time. People were making content about the Ice Block. The Ice Block had its own news cycle before a single song from the album had been heard by anyone. That's not something a budget buys you. That's what happens when the artist's cultural standing is so firmly established that everything they touch automatically becomes an event. The Toronto dimension of all of this matters more than people give it credit for too. Drake didn't just come out of Toronto, he fundamentally changed what Toronto means on a global stage. Before him, the city existed as a significant but secondary market in the North American music conversation. After him, Toronto carries a cultural identity that extends globally, and that identity runs through OVO, through the Raptors, through the accent that people now recognize, through the aesthetic that OVO sound established as a real and distinct sound within the larger hip-hop world. The Embassy sits in that city not just as a home, but as a symbol of what Drake represents to Toronto specifically. Proof that the ceiling he believed didn't exist turned out to actually not exist. When Kishka dug through that ice in a Toronto parking lot and found a release date inside, it was a Toronto fan finding it in Toronto for an album cycle that was framed almost entirely around Drake's relationship with his home city. That thread runs unbroken through everything he does, and it's a big reason why the cultural impact of this era lands on a deeper level than just chart performance. And then there's the financial picture that sits underneath all of it, because these 3 albums didn't just reshape the cultural conversation, they reshaped Drake's trajectory towards something that a year ago still felt like a projection rather than a certainty. Entering this rollout, Drake's net worth was sitting at an estimated $400 million according to reports from early 2026, which itself represented a significant climb from the $250 to $300 million range that had been cited in 2025. His business portfolio was already sprawling well beyond music. OVO Sound as a functioning label and brand, a restaurant investment in Dave's Hot Chicken that turned out to be enormously profitable as the chain expanded, and a media and content presence that extends his brand into spaces that traditional music revenue doesn't cover. His record deal, signed in 2022, was reported to be worth in the region of $400 million and encompass publishing, catalog rights, and merchandise, meaning the infrastructure around his music was already generating wealth independent of whatever new material he put out. But the triple album drop accelerates everything about that math in a way that's genuinely difficult to overstate. When you factor in what 3 simultaneous albums generate in first week streaming revenue alone, and these aren't just albums, they're Spotify record-setting albums, the number is significant on its own. Layer on top of that the merchandise operation that launched alongside the release, the music video revenue that will build throughout the year as visuals roll out, the sync licensing opportunities that 43 new songs create, and the inevitable effect that a moment this large has on the streaming performance of an artist's entire back catalog, and the revenue picture coming out of this single rollout becomes enormous. ICEMAN alone, if it hits the top spot on the Billboard 200, gives Drake his 15th #1 album, a number that breaks the rap record outright and puts him in company with some of the biggest names in the history of recorded music, regardless of genre. The possibility that all 3 projects could debut simultaneously in the top 3 of the chart was being discussed before release, a scenario that would have no real historical precedent in the modern era. and Billboard had already confirmed just 2 days before the drop that Drake became the first artist in history to have 3 albums charting on the Billboard 200 for 10 years, a baseline milestone that makes everything that came after it feel earned rather than handed. When you put all of the pieces together, the streaming dominance, the 3-album commercial performance, the tour revenue that will follow this cycle, the OVO brand equity, the business investments, the publishing catalog, and the cultural real estate that no amount of money can actually purchase, but that translates into financial leverage in every negotiation Drake will ever have. The billion-dollar conversation stops being speculative and starts being a matter of timing. The runway to that number is clearer right now than it has ever been, and it's built on a foundation that goes far deeper than one album cycle. It's built on years of staying relevant in a genre and an industry that eats artists alive the moment they show any sign of slowing down. Drake didn't slow down, he waited, watched, stacked, and then came back with 43 songs in one night and reminded the entire world exactly who he is and exactly what he's capable of when he decides it's time to make a statement.